Black Gemara, first day Alamoid. Today's daf is daf Nun Zayin. We are up to the Gemara. Amar Rava, Amar Rab Chassan. 3 lines from the top of the page. We're talking about Oino, and we learned there is less than Oino, there's Oino, and then there's more than Oino. So Oino, when the Gemara says Oino, means deception. When you sell something, we're talking about exactly a sixth. If it's above us, so what happens by a sixth? But the halacha goes by a sixth, you get your money back that you overpaid, but the deal remains a deal. If it's yoser michdena, then we say bitul mekach. The entire deal unravels, and you get your entire money back. So Amar Rava, Amar Rav Chassan, Boy Rabami. Rabami asked the following question. Oino ein lehem. We said before, let's say by hegdish, there's no laws of oino, but tell me, what about bitul mekach? What about if you charge more than a sixth, where we say that the entire deal is dissolved? Yesh lehem or ein lehem? How do we view more than a sixth? Is it not just another level of oino, or do we say this is totally different? Oino, you didn't cheat the person; you just charged more than you have a right to. Yes, oino is a way that you're cheating the person. If that person would have known what really is the value of the item, he never would have bought it. In a way, it's like deception. So maybe Yosef the Oino is like a mekartos, which has totally unrelated to Oino, and therefore, because it's totally unrelated to Oino, maybe it does apply to Hegdish. That's the question. Hadar Amar Rav Chassan. The Amr Nachman said, Hadar Rav Chassan said, Poshid Rab Ami. Rab Ami actually later on resolved it. Oino ein lehem, but bitul mekach yesh lehem. He's of the opinion that there is bitul mekach by Hegdish, because bitul mekach is a mekach tos, and therefore the entire deal falls off. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yirmiyah have an argument in what Rabbi Yehuda said, and they said Rabbi Yehuda said what Rabbi Yehuda said, which we'll see in a minute what it is. A hegdish is only talking about hegdish, and Rabbi Yirmiyah akarka is talking about land, because both of them, hegdish and karka, there is no eino. So says the Gemara. But they're both arguing on Rabbi Yehuda. No, Rabbi Yehuda said that there is bitul mekach. What was he referring to? Man, the one who says I want that's like a mekach tos for hegdish, and it does exist. Coach get a kakot. Mother by the Eibishter, you can't cheat the Eibishter, and yet we say that the deal is dissolved, and surely karka, where you're deceiving another human, surely the deal is dissolved. However, mandar is that it's limited to karka. I will hegdish is never comes to hegdish. Now, why by hegdish do we say the is a mekach tos? Because by hegdish we have a din like Shmuel. Shmuel tells us that if you took an item that belonged to hegdish worth $100, and you redeemed it with an item that's worth $1, it's a valid redemption. So therefore, by hegdish, we don't say that mekach, that if it's more than a sixth, the deal unravels. It does not. It's a good redemption. Tanan Hossa, we learned over there. We learned over there. Im hoya kodesh balmum. We learned over there that what happens, talks about tumur. If you have an animal that's suitable for the mizbech and you swap it over for another animal, they both become holy, but the original animal still remains sacred. It doesn't lose its kedusha. But if the original animal had a mum, and you swap it over for another animal, then the original animal loses its kedusha, becomes chulin. And you have to make sure that the other animals of equal value, at least, of the animal that you originally was kodesh. And if it isn't, you have to supplement it and add the money. Says the Gemara, now we learned over there, Imaya Kodesh. Balmum, if it was Kodesh, is Balmum, is the Yotzer L'chulin. What happens is, when it goes to Chulin, it's sort of last of them, but you have to make up the money. Is Omar Rabbi Yehuda of the opinion, Yotzer L'chulin V'atoida, it's a valid redemption, even if it's undervalued, because there's no oino by hegdish, so therefore, whatever value the second animal has, it was a good redemption. And at the moment, the Gemara was going to think that even if it's more than a shtus, it's still a good redemption. And v'tzarich las is leidami, but you have to, with the Rabbanan will see, you have to make up the money. And so Rabbi Yehuda says, he goes to chulun. I don't care what the value of the second animal is, but v'tzarich las leidami mid Rabbanan. So it's a valid redemption, but the Rabbanan says, don't cheat hegdish, supplement make up the difference. Shloki says, Af tzorich laslei dami min haTorah. He says, by Hegdish, it says the word erkechaz has to be the full value, and therefore the Shloki says that you have to give full value. I was a bit he holds erkechaz no matter what value, even a cold gurna. We want to analyze it. What are we talking about? It's exactly a sixth. It's exactly a sixth. We said ain't another kakos, which means, or ain't another hegdish, which means that whatever you did is a valid transaction. So how come the Shloki says that mahatoida, it's not a valid transaction until you make up the difference in the money? But man is what no hegdish. Ella must be talking about the case of Bitul Mekach. It's above the sixth. Is above the sixth, and that is why the Shloki says, because it's above the sixth, the deal unravels. And if you want the deal to go ahead, you want that the hektish should be able to should be redeemed. You have to pay the full amount. So, and what's Rabbi Yechon say? Behold, name Rabbi Yechon tzar last dam Rabbi Yechon holds only the Rabbanon. The more than the sheish, the whole thing falls apart. So, you know, Rabbi Yechon said hekdeshes Rabbi Yechon kakais that according to Rabbi Yechon, who says, at least according to Rabbi Yechon, who said that by hekdesh, that if it's more than a sixth, there's no deal. That means that there's not become chulin. So how can the same Rabbi Yochanan say that it became chulin? It's only the Rabbanon you have to supplement. Rabbi Yochanan, so the question of Yena, Amri, they say, oh, you know, Eilam become Egeshlem. Answer the Gemara, Le'elam bitl Mekach. No, we're talking about more than a sixth, and therefore the deal unravels. So how come Rabbi Yochanan says only with the Rabbanon you have to add? Rabbi Yochanan should hold that there's no deal there at all, and you have to be redeemed. You have to pay Ma'atayda the full money. You're right. The Eifach, swap the names around. Rabbi Yochanan to the Shlokish, Rabbi Yochanan means according to Rabbi Yochanan, you take a hold that you have to give the full money if you want it to be redeemed, because he holds that Yosef, I know more than a sixth, the whole deal falls off. So by my committee, what's the argument? Bidishmo. Shmuel said, Shmuel said that if you take Hekish worth $100 is good enough. That means that even Bittul Mekach is good enough. Is mad, he said, Shmuel Shlokish holds like Shmuel and says that if you redeemed Hekish, even though it has very little value compared to the Hekish, doesn't matter, even though it's more than a shtus. And nevertheless, because Hekish Shavah Mana Chila Shavah Prut is a good chil. However, so that's the Shlokish, he holds like Shmuel. Mad, but Rabbi Yechon less does not hold Shmuel, and therefore he says it wasn't a good redemption. And Mahatoida you have to fully redeem. That's if you change the names around. Another way of learning it is Kuli Ami Yisra Shmuel. Everyone agrees with Shmuel. I want that if you take something undervalued, it's still a valid redemption. The argument is Marsava one whole Shechilayin that this din of Shmuel is only b'di'evet. So therefore, the evidence there's no way no. Whatever you did is valid. But not lechatchila. So mahatoida lechatchila, you need erkechot the full value. That's what he says. Mahatoida, you got to pay the full money. Marsavar and the Owen holds that even lechatchila erkechot means even the slightest amount, and therefore that because of the slightest amount, therefore we say that Shavamana for even a little bit is a valid transaction and a valid redemption. But boss, the Rabbanan want you to make up the difference. However, he buys him another way of learning it. Don't swap the name around. But let's learn. We're talking about exactly a sixth. No, the chaylev is exactly a sixth. How come the Shlokish says that? So if it's exactly it's not a deal, you have to pay the full money. What do you mean? But there's no enough by Hegdish. Definitely, if it's a sixth, there's no enough by Hegdish. They're arguing. What do you mean when you say the words "there's no enough by Hegdish"? Right now, we understood there's no enough by Hegdish means that you don't get your money back and the deal remains intact. There's another way of learning. There's a way of Rav Chizda who he learns ain't another means there's no din of another Hegdish. We don't wait till a sixth before we say give the money back. Even 1 cent you overpay, you overcharge, you give it back. But my ain't but enough. That it means that there's by Hektish, when we say there's no enough, it means that the whole din of Allah doesn't exist. That even less than enough, you give the money back. That's a question of Chizah. It says ribas no lehediyah. There's ribas, and they know by an ordinary person, the ain't ribas. There's no law of interest or a no lehektish. So the Chizah says clearly here, there's no ino behegdish, and you Rab Chizah say that by the no ino means you're saying that there is a no. In fact, You're saying that the no is not a sixth, even 1 cent more. So the Gemara, I don't understand what your problem is. Mi alima mimaslisin. This is Bryce Eddie stronger than the Mishnah. Do kimna, we said before, it means toidas ano. Hachanami, so to here. Ribis, the din oino lehedit, that the ribis and the laws of oino apply to an ordinary person. The ain't ribis, there's no laws of ribis, or din oino, the law, no laws of oino by a hegdish, which means what? That even 1 cent overcharge is already a problem. So so let me ask you a question. So you're telling me then that hegdish is stricter than a hedged. By a hedged up to a sixth, you're meichel. But by a hedged, you say even 1 cent overcharge is a problem. You got to reimburse it. So the chumra by hedged over hedged. So I'm asking a question. If so, Heinrich Tony says the safer. It says here that heged is stricter than hegdish. On the contrary, hegdish is stricter than hedged. That hegdish there is a even 1 cent overcharge is a problem. Says the Gemara, no, these words, chayme, behedid, hegdish, only is limited to ribis. That hegdish, there's no law of ribis, and hegdish there is. The Gemara, lisne nami zeh chayme, hegdish, hegdish. So why don't we say the converse? There's a chumrah that hegdish has over a hegdish, and that is when it comes to enough. By a hegdish up to a six, you're meichel. By hegdish, even 1 cent overcharge, you got to give it back. The Gemara says, how can you compare? To say there's a chumrah in hegdish over heged is so common. There's no point in highlighting it. To say there's a chumrah in a heged over a hegdish, that's a chiddush. So the Gemara therefore says, you tell me there's a chumrah in heged over hegdish, no more. I understand. Sorry. It makes sense. El hegdish, but by hegdish to say that this is a chumrah of heged over heged, this is the only one. There's plenty more. Now the Gemara going back to analyze the Braisa. The Braisa said that there's no ribas by hegdish. What exactly would be a case of ribas by hegdish that you tell me it doesn't exist? Ribas by hegdish, what are you talking about? That normally if you lend someone $100, you cannot collect back 120. But you tell me that hegdish lends 100, you can collect back 120, there's a problem. The moment hegdish gives you the money, that's the hegdish, that's called moyel. You're stealing from hegdish, and what happens to that money? It converts to chulin. So it's no longer a case of hegdish lending money, it's a case of an ordinary person lending money. So how do you have an example of a hegdish with a loan and interest? So the Gemara, gives a 100, the 20. The Gabbai is stealing, and the moment the Gabbai steals, now obviously the Gabbai thinks he's allowed to do what he's doing. He thinks he's making money for Hegdish, but the fact is he drew the sheikh. It's Mila. We keep him like the money straight with the head. You block the head. Rabbi says, "Hochmach, you know talking about here." Keep going. Shekibel all of the sapik salsas ma'arba. Talking about a case that you accepted by yourself and there's no fixed amount, there's no fixed price, and you didn't have any in your warehouse, and you accepted to supply, and the Hegdish prepaid you. You're going to supply them, let's say, flour of the value of a seller, which for saw was sold for the value of a seller. But what happened was when it came time to pay, it went up in price, and now suddenly it's 3. But if you're going to give Bezdin for the value of 4 saw per seller, Bezdin now just got a 25% benefit. You said make 1 out of 4 and turn every 1 out of 3. You give the full amount. Why? Because there's no ribas by Hegdish. What about Misholish? When you made up, it was 3 saw. And on the Ma'arba, now you have a windfall because now you can buy cheaper, supply Hegdish. They only want 3 saw per seller, and you're buying it at 4. You make a good profit. No, you give the Hegdish the current price, which is 4 saw per seller. Why? Sheyad Hegdish alul yon. Hegdish is always above. Papa gives another example of interest on Hegdish. The Avnei Binyan HaMesoy Gizbo. Let's say the stones were given to the Gabayim to build the base of Hegdish. We have a rule when it comes to stones, we do not convert them into Kodesh until they're constructed. Because we're scared that people that are sit down on it, use it for shade, whatever, and have a benefit, and they are being moil. So because the stones have no Me'ila, have no Kodesh in it, they're a private person's stones, and that's why you cannot, and you can lend it, but you're not allowed to interest. And then you can lend it, and it is, and this does not become. It was always chulin. Even though it belongs to Hegdish, it's always chulin. They can lend it with interest. That's what I mean when there's no interest by Hegdish. So I asked, how can there be a case of interest by Hegdish? The moment they lend you the money, it converts from Truma from Hegdish to Chulin. But we're saying the stones that were donated to basic Hegdish were never made Hegdish until, because we were scared that people will use it, so therefore they don't become Hegdish. So they're mundane stuff, and Hegdish can lend it for it even. I thought Bahagam made an absurd of the Gizbert. Talk about building construction for a Gabba. Get a Shmuel, Boinin Bechel. At the stones, they would not convert them into Kedusha, but after only after it was built would they make it Kaddish. Then the Mishnah says there's no Keifel. How do you know that? When it comes to Karka and Hegel, how do you know that? I don't remember that called by Pesha. I thought the Pasuk says Klal Prav the Krav. It says in the Pasuk, a cold bar Pesha for every single thing they did is a Klal. Osher, somebody was a Salma, Prav, Shtumar Hashem. And then he mentions 4 different visual things. I'll call Aveda Sheyema. Any Aveda that they will say is Chazav the Kol. Cloud, practical, any cloud, prat, inclusive, specific, inclusive. Prat explicitly is something that is portable, and it itself it has an inherent value. What do we exclude? Karka. Why shame metaltin? They're not portable. And yotzu avodim exclude slaves. They're equated to karka. From the pasuk is lachaltem oisam l'meichum. Yotzu stutters we exclude contracts. Sha'afabishim metaltin. The metaltin ain't good for mama. They themselves have no intrinsic value. Hegdesh is what about hegdesh? Makro, it says the pasuk re'eyu. It says in the pasuk that what Yisham Shnaim re'eyu lo hegdesh. It's all talking about your friend, but not when it comes to hegdesh. So you don't pay hegdesh. Pretty much further, nor do you pay tashlumi halavi. Still a cow or a sheep. You pay 4 or 5 times. You might have why not. Since you be established, you don't pay kefil from the 4 or 5 times. The first time is the principal. The second one is the kefil, and then you pay an additional 2 or additional 3 times. But if you're not paying the kefil, you never get to 4 or 5 for each form. That's where they were done negligent. That's what we learned. The first thing gives a friend of mind for in the club. Kesef, Kelim is a prat. Cause of the color, prat, inclusive, exclusive, Kela prat. Ma, but put on the house, the moment something that has intrinsic value, put on the house, the moment. Yotcha exception sacrifice. Shame the housing is not affordable. The body should go crazy. Exception is the body compared to Kak. Especially when it doesn't even moment. And the Yotsu starters, even though they're portable, they have no intrinsic value. Hegdation on my cross. So the passage they Ehu below shows. No, you say somebody gets paid in the shower. By Hegdish, you don't have to pay. I don't know how do you know that? The Torah we learn to eat in Israel. Person gives to his friend a donkey or a cow or a sheep to guard for him and it died. So he dies as well. In Israel, you're cloud. It's a generic term. Somebody says a prat. Hold him a lishma chalukol. Ma prat with 4 different prat explicit overtals that moves around. The group between Mammon and it itself is money. So too. Cold over the hamatal and move around. The group of Mammon, so money, Yotsu Karkois. What are the exceptions here? I Shamish aim metalkin that Karka doesn't move around. Yotsu Avodim Shuhucha Kois, exclude slaves. And Yotsu started talking the government talking to Mammon, and I go Mammon. The Dage is Amar Cross. That the Ehu by Hegel says the friend relation like that if it belongs to we'll stop here with the theme. Have a good maid. You're well.